Good afternoon, everyone. This is Cammie Nairn at NCDPI. We'll get started in just a minute. I did want to do a quick sound check before we actually started. So I'm wondering if those of you guys that have already logged in your webinar panel, if you can hear me, if you would raise your hand. Awesome. There's a few hands going up. Okay. Okay, there's some more. Thank you so much. I'm going to put your hands down. And if you can see the screen and it says NCEES Ad Hoc Reporting Basics 2019-20, if you would raise your hand again, please. Okay. All right. We should have a few more hopping on. We had close to 80 sign-ups, so I thought that was great. We've got about 20 of you online, but maybe we'll get a few more in the next few minutes. And we'll get started here. I'm going to put everybody's hands down. This is the NCEES Ad Hoc Reporting Basics 2019-20 webinar for today. And the bit.ly is there. I also put the bit.ly, if you can see the chat when you get in your webinar panel, the bit.ly is also linked in the chat. And excuse me, I have had a bad head and sinus cold for the last week, doing much better now. Probably sound worse than I'm really feeling, but we'll get through the webinar. So excuse me if I have to stop for a minute and take a swallow of water. Let's see. All right. I am Cammie Nairn. I work for NCDPI for our teacher evaluation system, the NCEES. I am the education product consultant, and I can answer any system questions that you have. Kim Simmons usually joins me for these webinars and helps monitor questions. I haven't seen where she's gotten online yet, so maybe she's having trouble getting online. But if she does, that's okay, and if she doesn't, we'll get to your questions as well. But she does work as our NCEES coordinator, and she answers a lot of the policy questions that you guys have. So our objective today is that you'll learn more about the ad hoc reporting features in our NCEES tool. We ask for you do the webinar norms, minimize your outside distractions, be attentive, and participate when you can. Notify us if you're having difficulties. Raise your hand, or maybe it's better to put a question in the question box, and we'll try to stop and see what's going on. And use the question bar on your dashboard as we go through the webinar to ask your questions. And we'll stop every so often to look at those. Okay, we just did this, and we checked and make sure everybody could hear us and see our screen. So a lot of this we're going to do on the live side, but I wanted to go through a few slides here. And we're going to look, everybody has a reporting tab. The principals have a reporting tab, and the district administrators have a reporting tab. And over there, you can go run reports from that page. This is actually separate from our ad hoc reports that we're going to talk about today. But I wanted to show you this because there are ad hoc reports that show up under the reporting tab page. And that's down below your quick reports modules at the top. And then if you memorized any reports, they're in the next section for my reports. And if you have been published, like I publish reports from DPI for district administrators and lead principals to run, and then they show up in that section called My Ad Hoc Reports. And this is what that section looks like. This is an older screenshot because it's got 16, 17, and 17, 18 reports in it. But this is where they're listed. And they always stay here. So you may need to do the show all to see the additional reports that are published to you. Angela, you want the bit.ly again? Give me just a second. You see the chat at all, Angela? Try to get it in the questions section. Give me just a second. I'll get that for you. Okay. Yeah, I know some folks don't see that chat. All right, so I put it also in the questions, and I showed it to everybody for Angela's questions. So hopefully you can get there from that, Angela. All right, so you can show all to see all your reports is where we were at. I did want to go, and we'll look at this in the live side in just a minute. I'll try to remember this report, the DPI 2018-2019 Access Rights to Abbreviated Plans. When we are talking about building ad hoc reports, you can apply filters, and I just wanted to show you where those filters show up. You won't see them in the ad hoc reports. It's only when somebody's running a report on this page that they'll see that filter applied. And then here's a list of reports that I published for you guys. The yellow ones I have republished for this year. I need to catch up on the ones that I've not highlighted yet, but we'll get those copied over to you guys for the 2019-2020 school year, because I know it's getting mid-year and you guys are going to be needing to run these pretty soon as we get towards the end of the year and you're doing summary evaluations. All right, so we're going to talk about today what are the basics of ad hoc reporting. So we have what are called our target reports, and I'll show you where those are at shortly. Which report should you pick? Where does the information go in the report? And you need to ask yourself, what am I trying to find? And then when you're creating the query in the report, you need to determine which fields you should include. Maybe you want to omit some fields. How do you do that? Do I want to sort by any fields in my report? Am I going to publish this report for other users to run? And do I want to use a graph in the report? And then you can also publish and export reports for other people to run. So you need to decide, am I going to share this report with somebody? How do they need to receive it? Should their view be restricted? And how big is the data set that they're going to run? This will be published in NCEES by tomorrow. This is our new ad hoc reporting for district administrators guide. So this is how to set up the reports that we're going to talk about today. I've given you the Word version so you can recreate your own. And there's a PDF version if you just want to use the PDF version. And then these are the reports that are actually what are called the target reports. So the bolded name at the top is your target report. And then you can go build a new report from these target reports and memorize them as your own report. Or I publish reports as DPI reports from these target areas. So these first target areas are your evaluation groups, your access groups, your evaluation forms by single row, and I'll let you guys read through what those are. We'll talk more about that as we get into the live side. Your evaluation intervention, I haven't really ever gotten anything pulled from that. I don't know if anybody's using that report. Evaluation status gives a completion status of each step within a program or a plan. And then you have your observation reports. These were formerly called evaluations. They display all the results in multiple rows at the framework. Framework is your plan type. Is it a comprehensive teacher plan or counselor standard plan, that kind of framework? And the activity level that you want to pull the report from. What part of the activities do you want to pull that are in the observations? And then observation single row displays all results in a single row with the same levels, the framework and activity levels, more detailed. If you're doing PD in the system, you can run reports on your courses and search for those courses and see if you've archived older courses or if you have some historical courses. The course transfer credit. So this is the transfer credit manager. This is a report for searching who has received transfer credit, been a recipient of a transfer credit put in the system. And I think there's also a report that also tells you who put the transfer credit in the system. And then the roster is on your courses, of course. Who has ever been signed up for a course, they're on the roster for the course, and this is where you can search for that information. The roster is also another area you can search for CEUs that you've applied to a course. It's not who's earned a credit, but what type of credit is applied to the course. You find that in your roster report. Section attendance. This is for who did or did not attend a particular section of one of your instructor-led courses. Section class times. This is again for your instructor-led courses that you're setting up. You can search for those meeting dates and times for a course section. And then sections is just a broader view of the course sections. If you've applied a survey, you can print out the answers through this report that they have to complete at the end of your course. And then the transcript information. This is for anybody to run. Your people are taking courses. What's showing on their transcript? What have they earned? What kind of credits do they have? Do they have their DLCs? Do they have their general and literacy credits? The things that they need. And then there's a waitlist report, and this is for people that are waiting to get on a roster. Maybe you want to run a report that shows that. Then we have the overall people report, where you can search users in the system. And we have the user sites report that identifies the sites and locations to where a user is linked to. All right. I see one hand up for Carol. Carol, if you have a question, if you'll put it in the question box. And I don't see any questions in there yet, so we'll move on. All those reports that I just went over, I've created you guys a spreadsheet, and I've pulled all the header titles out. So if you're a very detailed person and you want to keep up with what report you've created under assessment completion, or maybe you're doing a course transfer credit report that you've memorized, and you need to remember what fields you've checked to use in that report. This would also be handy for the who's ever building out reports to list those reports and what fields, because you are the owner of the report. So if you were to ever leave your district, nobody else can run your report. They're going to have to rebuild it. So they could have this sheet and they could say, oh, there's an assessment completion report, and this are the fields that they ran that they wanted in that report. And then they can rebuild that report, and they'll be the new owner. The vendor does know that we want a way to assign ownership over, so we hope that's an enhancement coming for the future. But right now, whoever builds the report owns the report. And we're going to look at this from the live side too. This is actually under the ad hoc report section. And then I wanted to show you again where the target name is. So when you're looking through your current reports, there's a target name at the top. I've actually opened up this report because there's a little drop down blue arrow. I don't know if you see my mouse going over that little blue arrow. But I've opened this up so you can see that this title target is assessment completion. But then there's all these memorized reports underneath it, under the templates for the assessment completion. So these are all assessment completion reports, but they're pulling different data. So if you see the run icon and it's a circle with like a little graph check in there, that's the run icon. It means you can run a report. So these reports are published by DPI, and I too try to put DPI in there, or somebody else, it may not be DPI, published a report to you, and then you can only run it. However, if you've created a report, you can see the run icon, and then you'll also see a pencil icon, and that means you can edit it. And this is where we'll get in shortly and talk about how to identify what parameters you want to run in your report. This is some more screens of what you're going to see shortly. So once you've set your parameters, you're going to want to save your report. If you want to memorize it, you can always just go in there and create a report and run it. You have a somewhat ability to rerun that report, but if you don't save it, if this is something you want to run all the time, I would go ahead and save it. You can always delete it later if you decide you don't want it, but I would go ahead and save it so you have the same check marks that you checked in those parameters. And we'll look at memorizing those reports so they show up in your memorized list, and how to publish reports to other people to run. And we'll look at these screens later. And there's more about publishing to a target group. These are just for you to refer back to later. And then here's a sample of once a report has run. It gives you in the top left corner what you've run. This is an ad hoc report for observation single row, and it's for, I ran it for teacher plan type for teacher late hire. And then it shows you your results. And then on the right hand side, you can do a printer friendly display. You can download an CSV and open it in Excel and manipulate the data. And then there's a link to go back and start a new ad hoc query. All right, so we're going to stop right here just a minute. We aren't super people yet. So let's come in. PowerShell. All right, any questions so far? All right, so first we're going to look at that reporting tab. It logged me out. Let me try. I think I have another one up. Okay, there we go. Okay, and so I remembered I want to go to the reporting tab. So we're on the reporting tab. Let me zoom in a little bit. Remember the top part has your quick reports, of course, here. The next section is your My Reports, so any memorized reports will be here. Here's one I memorized to run for login statistics by date, and then I can run it here. And then here's my ad hoc reports. Notice that I have a run icon on the left. I also have a trash icon, so I can delete my report from here. I don't have to go back into the system administration side of things. I can show all these reports. I'm going to jump back over here just a minute. And it's DPI. Okay, so here's, if y'all don't know that little handy Control F, I love that. And find your words real quick. So we're going to try to run one of these reports. And here's what the filters look like. So I attached some filters on my fields. So the first field I did was my group field. And now the person that I've published this to can come in here and they can make a selection. Here we go. It's being slow. So they can run this report for just their teachers, observers. This is for access rights. So they can see who has peer observer access rights. They can just select there. If they wanted to search for just one person, they can put in their name here. They can do the contains, the starts with. Maybe they need an exact match. Maybe you want to see all the Smiths. What kind of observer rights do they have? So you can put their names in there. Here, I've put a filter on my site section. So I can find all users in the site that I'm running for. I can find anybody that's using this in my list that has my site as primary. And then, or I can find users who are tied to the site I'm running for, but it's not their primary site. I can also narrow down who I'm running for. Since I'm in here at the state level, I'm seeing all the regions. You guys, of course, would only see your region. So you would just drill down, and maybe I only want to run and see what kind of rights I have at this middle school. I would check it. It's just an easy way for them to filter out, and then your principal can run their report for just their school, their location. And then you publish it to them. You leave it up to them to run their report and pick their filters. Any questions about what the filters look like once you set them? Okay. And then you just click search to run here. Okay. All right. So that's the reporting tab and how to run a report that has filters on it. We're going to go over to System Administration. You got slow today. There we go. All right. Now, I see a few more things than you guys do, but district administrators will come under applications, and you'll come under ad hoc reporting restricted. It's right here. Restricted just means that you're restricted to the access you have at your location. So it's only going to give you results for your location and your access rights. All right, so when I come into this page, we'll look at the very top. You see the ad hoc reporting title. Over to the far right is a refresh button. So when you're running a report, it shows up here, and we'll see this in just a minute. It's supposed to email us when the report is ready, but if we're impatient, we can sit here and click this refresh button every so often and see if we get the eye icon to view a report. All right, and then here's that way to rerun a report. So if you were just to go start a new report and run it, it shows whatever you're running shows up under your most recent reports. This is a list that revolves, so it only holds 5 reports at a time. So if you're running 10 reports in a day, these are going to scroll off, but I'll show you where to see your cached reports. And again, those stay in the log for about 4 days. So anything you want to save, you need to download. And here it tells me right here when it expires. Okay. But if I were to run 10 reports, it would roll off here. So down below is our current reports. And again, this is where your target titles are. I see ASW. You guys do not see those anymore because ASW went away. All right, here's an assessment completion report. It says it displays the completion status of assessment and only shows the status of the most recent time the assessment was taken or started. So we have a new report button over on the left, and we have a drop down arrow over here. So you can come in here and see if DPI or anybody else has published any reports in your location, and they'll be listed here. You'll see the run icons. If it's been published to you, you won't see the edit icons unless you created this report and memorized it to show up here or saved it to show up here. This cache tab, this is where the reports are living. Like I ran this one today, and if it rolls off my list up here, then I can still find it until November 23rd down in my cache tab. I can view my report. Let's see. Not to show. Taking a while to load it. All right, good. Yeah, oh, I see that down there. All right, so I don't want to show you anybody else's data, but up here is what your report is going to look like. This is the ad hoc report for assessment completion. Here are those links we talked about, your printer-friendly display, how to download the CSV, and then starting a new ad hoc query will take you back to our previous page. It'll tell you how many records were pulled up, and this one says 675 records came up. And then you can just scroll across to see all the headers. And this is what I've put in your Excel document, all these headers of what's in that report. If you were to select every single criteria in that report, you don't have to select it all. We'll come back to start new ad hoc query. All right, any question about where to find your cache reports once you've run a report? Okay. Remember, your most recent reports are at the top. Your current reports are next. So let's try doing a new report. Let's, here's the evaluation status. Let's do a new report. Try to find one that changes on you. All right, you're actually not going to start with this gray box. This is where you're going to save your report. We're going to start on the right-hand side. Zoom back in again. All right, so hopefully that's close enough. We're going to go across from left to right. The first box, there's different sections. The first one up here is a search evaluation status. And then down here is a section for including who owns the plan. Depending on what report you've pulled, these titles here, they'll change. So this is where they'll be different depending on the report you're going to have. And that means what's in the section there will change as you choose parameters. So here's the select all button. These are handy. You really don't need it for a single box here. But that toggles your arrow, your check mark on and off too. The next parameter over is sort. Do I want to sort A to Z or sort Z to A? And that's what these buttons at the top are, A to Z at the top or Z to A at the bottom. And then the next one is that filter option. So notice these all have filter options. You need to decide if it's usable to put a filter on there, or should you just not check filter. So maybe I do want to check filter. I would just check here, and we'll talk about the sort in just a minute. The graph option. So this is where if you want to see a pie chart or a bar chart in your report for this field, you can check this. If the field is pink, it's advisable not to select the graph option. And if you hover over that, it will tell you that. Okay. Oh, there you go. So if you need to take it off, click the little X. If you want to narrow it down to what plan, and most reports I've found in NCEES, yes, you probably do want to narrow it down to what plan you're running. Because it doesn't do well when you say run for all plans. It doesn't give you the titles of the plans. It gives you a number, and then you have to try to figure out what does number mean. Does it mean abbreviated for 1516? So I would choose a plan. Let's just do, where's my comprehensive? All right, comprehensive 2019-2020. And did you notice that? Once I chose the plan, now my filters have changed for this section. I've got additional filters to look at now. So again, I would always come in here and check and uncheck so that all these are blank, and then I can decide what to include. I'll take this filter option off of here. Here's the next section. Do I want to look at archive plans and active plans? Keep it on both. If you don't want to look at archive plans, say no. If you only want to look at archive plans, say yes. There probably won't be many archives that are 1920. It's going to overlap. So I'm just going to leave it on both for now. If I want to see whether it's archived, I have to check the box that's on the far left to make that column on my report. So if you don't check the boxes over here, they will not show up on the report. It may filter by that, but it won't show up on the report. All right, my next one down is the names of the people in the evaluation. So do I want to include a last name? This you don't have to change at all. It'll pull everybody's last name if you just leave it blank. So yes, I want to include it by last name. And I want to sort my report by the last name, A to Z. That's going to be my first sort. You can sort up to 2 sort filters. So I can do my last name and then sort by my first name, because maybe I have like 5 William Smiths, or a bunch of Smiths with all different names, and so I want all the Smith names to come up and then sort their first names alphabetically. Now you could do different sections, so maybe you want this to come down here and sort by school first and then by last name. So you determine how you want to sort, or if you want to sort it all. You can always redo it when you've downloaded it to Excel. All right, and maybe I do, if I'm publishing this report to my principal to run, maybe I do want to put a filter on those name fields. I want to check those. They definitely don't need to get a pie or a bar chart. And then you just go through each report and decide if you want to add those fields in your report. And this is going to take trial and error when you're trying to run a report, what you want to have in there. Maybe I want to include observation 1. Maybe I want to find out who has. It'll come up. Who has completed observation 1. And you just scroll down for each section. I'm not going to take time to add a bunch of fields in here for you guys, but you understand the gist. So notice this report I pulled has a lot of additional sections once I change the plan type. Get down here to the next section. All right. So my next section is, do I want to include the plan owner? Well, I included the name at the top. So I probably don't need to include it again here. But do watch those, because sometimes the name at the top is not the owner of the plan, depending on the report that you're running. So watch how the names are listed. You could just leave the name off on the top and do all your plan owner information in this section. So again, I can choose last name, first name. But notice I had already sorted up above, so I can't resort. So if I put my sort down here, it's going to remove it from where I put it at the top. Maybe I do want to include some of this other information, such as their username or their employee ID. I can just check those boxes and decide what to include. We don't have home phone in the system. We do have their license expiration date. Maybe you want to list what PDP type they're on to go with this plan type that I'm pulling for. This was added last year, this section with the sites, and this is really cool. So this is where you can come in here and choose what site should this report be pulling for. You don't need to do anything if you're just running a report for your whole district and you're the district admin. You don't need to choose it, because the only thing listed in here will be your location, because it's restricted to your location. Since I'm state, I need to pick somebody to run, so it doesn't take forever to run. And then I can show it on here, and it will list what site they're at. The primary site, if you have teachers that are teaching at more than one school, or other staff that are at more than one school, you can include that and show where their primary site is. And here's another expandable area. If I want to run this report for just certain roles in the system, or I'd be careful with running for classification and certification here, because that's not fully correct in the system yet. We are working on that as we speak to get these classifications updated. You could do by evaluation type, that you could do, or you could do by role. So maybe I just want to pull all my master teachers in this report, and I want to list it, so I would check it over here. All right, and then if this is tied in any way to a roster on a course, you can include roster information as well. We'll skip over that. And then if I want to list out the user sites, they are going to print from what I've done up above. So I really don't care that I need to add this again. But notice that you can add all these parameters: school code, the school name, the district code, the district, the county code, and so on. That can be in there too. So once I've got all that information in there, then I'm about ready. Do I want to run this, or do I want to save it? So if I think I'm going to use this report again, I can go ahead and save it. Do we have any questions about setting those parameters in the report? Don't see any coming in yet. Okay. All right. So to save my report, now the district administrators, you guys are not going to see these three boxes right here. I'm going to find out from my vendor why you guys don't see it. I'm thinking you're at your level, everybody is just restricted by the rights that they have. But you can't choose to restrict rights on your reports. They should already be restricted to your location. But I at DPI, I can choose whether to restrict to somebody's user rights, to their course rights if they're a PD office admin, and to their evaluation plan rights. So that's for super users right now, but let me find out if that will ever be at the district admin level. All right, so what we need to do is to name our report. You can put in a description. I just usually repeat that. If you want to include summary rows, you can check this box here. I've never really done that. And then you need to decide, is this a raw data report or a graphical report? I don't have anything on here that was really going to be graphed, so I want this to be a raw data report. If this is a report that I've already been running and I've just edited it, then I may want to do a save as and put it under a new name. But right, since this is a brand new report, I'm gonna click save. And it takes me to my next page. So I could have also at the very top of that gray box just run the report, and then it would show up under my current reports, and I have that rerun button. And if we'll have time later, we'll look at that. You have to be careful when you're using the rerun because it's supposed to hold your check marks, but it doesn't always hold your check marks in every section. It'll hold it in most, but not all. So here I've got my memorized report. I want to save it so that I can always have it. And then I'll just click that blue button. And I get a little note that says this has been updated. So now it's memorized. There's more options under here. I can run the report from this page. I can schedule and export. We'll look at that. So what do I want to name this? So we'll run this monthly. And then what is my file name going to be? Let's do. And then when do I want the export to start? So I just pick a date. And what time do I want it to run? And is it going to reoccur? And I want it to reoccur monthly. I want it to recur every month. The next 12 months. All right, and then there's just other parameters that you can come in here. There's a range of occurrence if you want to do a range of reports. Who should get this report? I'm going to put myself in there. You have to put a comma if it's going to go to somebody else, and then put their email address. It will not go to an FTP server because we run this NCEES system statewide. So we don't have like single servers for all the districts currently to let this run to an FTP server. So skip over the FTP section. And then here you can change the order of the report columns. So that's just drag and drop. And then you can save it. Oh, I missed something. Please look there. That was it. I did have to select something there. All that is explained in your guide. It won't take too long to save. See, we still got about 20 minutes. But once it's saved, it should show up here. Your memorized report should also show up under your reporting tab in that section for memorized reports. This is still spinning. We may have to move on from there. All right, I'm going to see if I can stop that. All right, we're going to come back. So any questions about how to schedule and export? All right, I came back to the page where you see the memorized report information. There was one more option under here, and that was your delete option. So if you want to delete this report, this is where you come to it. Maybe I want to publish this report, so I can publish this to, you have to scroll down to see the buttons, to individual users or to target to a group of people. So if we're doing individual user, it'll pop up a little window, and of course you can find their name. You don't have to put anything else in. You can click search, and there I am. So I select that, and I click finish, and now I should be listed up here as who that report is published to. You can also target, you can publish to individual users and to a group. So you can target to a group. When do I want this to publish to that group? So you select the date. Today's date is always automatically there. Do I want this report to ever expire? I need to put in a date. Leave it blank to never expire. The inclusion filter. Look at that. Send to the users which meet all the selected criteria. Send to everyone except the users which meet all the selected criteria. Send to the users which meet any of the selected criteria. I usually just leave it on whoever meets all my criteria. What? Network's going down at 5? Okay. All right, just got to notice that the network's going down at 5, so we need to be finished by 5. Did not know that. That's great. All right, the dynamically republish, that's for as people change roles in your system. If you've published this report to district administrators and there's somebody that's a district administrator, they go to reporting tab, they can see that report. Well, then they take a new job as a teacher, they will roll off as long as this is dynamically published. So that's the automatically republished. It either puts people on, so when you get a new district administrator, you don't have to come out here and publish that report to them. They are automatically added to any report that you've published to district administrators. So you can do that for your principals, whoever you've published report to. That one I usually like to do if I'm doing like the reports for you guys. I always dynamically republish those. Set account status. This is, do you want to publish it to all account statuses, and that's active or inactive? I haven't yet figured out why I want to publish to an inactive account, but so I just select active to reduce my numbers. Let me show you this while we're doing this. In the middle of the page is a number, and you're going to see this big number. This is statewide users in the system. This is actual users, trainer users, all kind of users in the system. You will only be publishing to your location, so you should see this number going down as you go through this list. All right, so we set this to active accounts. Then you have to make some decisions. Set staff position. Do I want to publish it to just my instructional staff or my administrative staff? In our systems, everybody comes in as instructional or administrative. Some districts have gone in and changed people to support. We ask that you don't do that. The reports pull for instructional and they pull for administrative. So any of our reports are not going to pull anybody that's in support. So leave them in instructional. They fall under that category according to the legislative definition. So this one I usually just leave blank. Occasionally I do publish to instructional. Oops, sorry about that. Wrong box. If you do choose instructional, I think it then asks you to narrow down the demographics. It does. So maybe you do want to publish a report just for your counselors. So you can do instructional, you can expand that list to the role, and maybe I only want to do this report for my counselors. And I continue. All right, so notice that changed my number right there. Now I'm only publishing to 4,000 people instead of 388,000. Okay, okay, thank you. All right, we just got the notice that we're good. My internet's not going down. All right, the next section is your admin rights. Everybody in your system comes in as a user unless you've set them to district administrator or your APs to site administrator. Your head principals do come in as site administrators. So you can choose that too. You can do either or both, depending on how you're setting these. So maybe my counselors probably aren't site administrators, so I'm just going to leave that on user. Although that did reduce my number a little bit, so there must be some that are different admin right in there. And then set locations. You should only see your locations to choose from. I'm going to see the state level. You're going to see your, I think it's district level. So just when you get in there, you can drill down as far as you need to. And then just click add. And click done. So now, since I've chosen a location, I'm only sending to 19 people. All right. So you can always view your recipient list with this button right here. You could have skipped all of this up here and just come down to this section and set people. That's the same way we saw a while ago where you search for their last name, first name, things like that. You can view and remove people that have been selected. You can also publish to your staff groups. It will show you a list of staff groups in the system. If I get there. And then you just click on one and select it. And it'll have a done down at the bottom. Have a lot of groups. That'll be a continue down there. So I'm not selecting any staff groups. And then if you're publishing to people in a section of a course, this is where you set that. I'm not going to click finish because I really don't want these people to get a report and want to know what they're supposed to do with it. But you would click finish, and then the system would kind of spin, and it would take you back to, if I get there, how far we need to go. Oh, I went too far. Took me all the way out. But it will take you back to your the place where you were publishing that report. And it will show you, it'll give you a little spinning circle, and it will start listing names of who that report is getting published to. All right. So any questions about how to publish a report out? Okay, so we've got maybe about 10 minutes. Did any of you guys have any specific questions that you wanted answered today about how to set up the reports and how to make your own library of memorized reports? It's just saving those reports and getting them over into the memorized list, or in this section here, they also show up under your templates. That's where your library of reports will live. They should. I've got a question. When you publish a report out, does the recipient receive an email to alert them that it is ready? Yes, they should get a, well, that's a good question, Sally. Let me check on that to see what the emails that go out when you're publishing reports. And I'll send that in our Q&A when we send it out after the webinar. I'll get I want to have an exact answer for you about that. I'm almost wanting to say maybe it doesn't, but I'll check on that. All right, let's see if we covered everything in here. We looked at how to set it up, and we looked at where the templates go, how to schedule those exports, and how to delete a report. Oh, and here's do your run report here, so I could run it from this page. I can also choose to change if I'm running raw data or graphical here when I'm running a report. If any of you guys are running any graphical reports, I would love to talk to you guys about that and see what reports you're running. I really haven't had a chance to play with the graphical reports to see how they're coming out. So I hope this has been helpful. We're going to jump back over out here to our slides. Okay, and again, this will be published by tomorrow. Okay, we looked at all that and how to publish those reports. There's a little back button to get back to this screen that has the run report and save report. Just look at all those filters when you're setting the dates. You can do run evaluations as of July 1st, 2019. Some of the evaluation reports, you choose the plan type, and then you have to choose the form year. So for like 2018-19 evaluation report, you're going to want the form for 2019. So you have to match it up like that. And so the 2019-2020 report, that form will be 2020. So now you guys should be super users in the ad hoc reporting. Remember to think about your questions as you're setting up your reports for your districts. What variables are included for the question you're trying to answer? Which target report do you want to use? How would you build out that query? And who would you share it with and how? So this is your chance to get any additional questions in before we wrap it up for today. Here is a link to Sean Vair's report webinar on ad hoc reporting for professional development. He actually digs into about 4 or 5 of the professional development for the courses, transfer credit manager report, all those different kind of PD reports. This is a good link to go. It's about an hour long to go watch Sean. Sean's always great about doing the webinars for us. So this is a webinar for professional development. And if you guys want any more detailed at reporting for ad hoc, just tell me which reports, and we'll get in there and work them out and see what you need. I also take requests for what you want published that maybe we could publish statewide to people. If there's reports out there that you think would be beneficial, let me know. I'll be happy to set those up and publish those out. Here's our Google site that Kim Simmons set up. Hope you guys are going out there, especially when we're doing our evaluations and things. We'll be uploading all our guides out here as well. All right. And then our next webinars are going to be in December. So we'll have our middle of year webinars for teachers and for principals. I think it's the first 2 weeks in December before we get out for Christmas. So if you guys don't have any other questions, I'll hang on for a few more minutes. I appreciate you guys coming out today. I hope this was beneficial to you. Send me those questions, and I'll be happy to answer them for you. So you guys have a great evening. Thank you.